Hey everybody, this is Liz from Augusta, and today I am with, in person, the Marcus Roberts, and we are in the Memphis airport getting ready to fly back. We came down for a franchisee workshop, and we'll tell you more about that as we go along. But so we're stuck in the airport for like 4 hours, so I thought I would interview Marcus because I interviewed Marcus before 1 or 2 times, and it would be so cool to see where he is now from then. And I think the last time that we talked, you were wanting to start a franchise, and I think it was the plans were in the works. So
Right.
what has happened since then?
Since wanting to start a franchise, it manifested into reality. So I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity from you and Lee and Mike to start my own franchise. So using the 3F program, franchise fee forgiveness, in which you could start your own franchise basically for free. They waive the initial cost. So that was a huge benefit to me because I had the money to buy a couple trucks, paint, decals, equipment for those trucks, shop space. And that's what I've done basically these last couple months without paying that huge initial fee, which would just have me grow a lot slower. So that's
So
what's
from
really
that
nice.
time we talked till now, what's it been? 3 years?
I'm trying to think,
Maybe
when
2
is the
years.
last time we talked?
It was a long time ago.
I have to look in the archives.
So much has happened from then till now. And how old are you now?
22.
22. So since we spoke the last time, you hadn't even become a general manager at the Bellingham shop.
Is that
think.
right?
Yeah, I think it was. You were in
Before
the field, and then you were still in the field, but you were wanting to become a franchisee, but it was still like the saving, the working.
Right. Seems so far off then.
Yeah, and at that time, we talked about growth and reading books and all of those things. And when we first met, can you tell everyone how you even came to Washington State to meet us in the first place?
How I came, or my initial meeting with you?
No, the first time you came. Like, why did you come to Washington?
Okay.
And then how did you meet us?
Yeah, so my then girlfriend at the time, we were in Montana, grew up, born and raised, but as Matthew McConaughey says in his book Green Lights, kids are and teenagers are Montana's biggest export. They go looking for opportunity, and then a lot of them come back. But it's just, that's what it was. I was looking for opportunity. I was a naive kid. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I felt like moving places, moving location would really help me in finding what I wanted to do. So Bellingham being a college town, Western Washington University, we thought, hey, let's go over there. Let's work for 2 years to establish residency in the state. And then after that, college will be a lot cheaper because we're applying as an in-state basically person.
Interesting. So to even be that visionary there, were you reading, listening to something, or what even sparked that?
The only thing that I was really interested in, as a teenager, you really have to find stuff you're interested in, was real estate. So my dad, he was in firefighting basically his whole life, just retired a couple years ago.
Wow.
And one of his buddies, his name's Chris, he owns a lot of his real estate. So he was a firefighter as well, but they work basically 2 days, all day, all night, and then they maybe have 3 days off, whatever the schedule is. So that was kind of the deal. So I talked with Chris and looked at his units, helped him with some maintenance and repairs for new tenants coming in and things. I kind of saw the whole process. And him and a girl named Regina, who's in Florida, they had this little course that they created for people who wanted to know more about real estate. So that's what I took, and I listened a lot to the Bigger Pockets podcast. That's the only really thing I was interested in, is wanting to get my own units and do the BRRRR method.
Got it.
You've heard of that.
You were already listening to that before you moved here?
Yeah, off and on. It was pretty far out, it was just one thing I was listening to just to try to get some sort of direction, but I was never really serious about getting into real estate. I knew it would be a long-term play.
Yeah. Did you know that Mr. Turner from Bigger Pockets is from Washington?
Yeah. Aberdeen.
Aberdeen, yeah.
And you and Mike met him, right?
I did. I forgot about that. I met him exactly a year ago, I think. So
a tall bearded dude.
Yes, and he had a beard that day, and we have this goofy picture together. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You went where was that, in like San Diego?
Yep, it was San Diego, and it was for real estate, and it was put on by Bigger Pockets. So
BP Con, is that?
Yeah, BP Con. I met Mindy and a whole bunch of them. One of the guys who had written several books, I can't remember his name right now.
Robert Greene.
I think that might have been him and his wife. I met them both, and
that's awesome.
He was a speaker there, so that was a great experience.
Yeah. What a podcast! How valuable that is.
Oh yeah.
They talk about real estate, and they really get into the weeds on some of these podcasts. Sometimes they keep it, vague, in which anybody could try to understand it, but. Learning about, I was trying to find a specific niche in real estate. Like, how do I invest in tax liens? Because I don't know anybody that's investing in tax liens. So if I could be the one at the courthouse steps, getting those tax liens and stuff, it's very interesting. Some people make some very interesting niches in that industry. And at the very end, they talk about a book they like, and that really helped me as well.
Yeah, cool. So you came to Washington State and you lied. You're a liar.
I am a liar.
He lied to get a job with Augusta.
I have a book of lies. What lie are you referring to?
That you lied and said you had landscape experience.
I had all this landscape experience.
How much were we asking for? 1 year, 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
I had I'd mowed my dad's lawn twice. I dug a couple holes. I've planted, I don't know if I planted anything. Maybe that's a lie too. But
and
by that time,
at a nursery, right?
I worked at a nursery. But yeah, we put stuff in pots, and it was pretty straightforward. It's watering all day. So landscape experience. It's I bended that term really for my application.
So Augusta hired a liar.
Yeah. So what's funny is you did hire a liar. What's funny on my resume, I put his name's Barto. That's my then girlfriend's dad. And I did work for him, but he does more construction.
Yeah.
So I put his name, and but for the phone number, I didn't want you guys calling him because I knew you were going to call the references.
Oh my word!
So I put my brother's phone number, and you ended up calling my brother, and you didn't know that at the time. Did you know that?
Never knew that. The deception is spreading.
And so that was Sam, and he answered, and he's got to pretend like he's Barto. He sounds nothing like him.
And did you warn him about this?
I think I told him, hey, you may get a call, but probably not, because nobody calls references. So I didn't expect you to. And you're one of those sneaky people that now you're going to get paid back and have people apply and do the same thing. Oh yeah, I'd say more people that not lie on their resume.
All the addicts and everything that I get, and I think about it now that you say that, and all the things they say, and they get their brothers to say what an amazing person they are, and they get their girlfriend who has a different last name to say she worked with them for a while or she's known them for years. Yeah, not cool.
Not cool.
Okay,
and that was pretty evident when my first couple of days I made a huge damage case when I was on a zero turn, which you said, have you been on a zero turn before? Yeah, I know what a zero turn is.
Lie again.
Well, I've never been on a zero turn. I didn't know that was even a mower. So I was on a zero turn, and Austin was showing me around, and it was clear to him that I didn't have any experience, but I was going through the backyard, and I just got sunk into this lawn. It was pouring rain. The sprinklers were on.
Oh, my word.
On this back patio, this guy was selling his house. The back patio, he had like this hot tub, and the water was sort of leaking out into the lawn. So all this water was pooling up in this one area. I got stuck with the zero turn and eventually got out of it, but it was just this big mud pit.
I bet you felt terrified.
Yeah, I did. And that's when I first learned ownership. I didn't take it then.
Yes.
But Austin Holmstrom, who's down in Texas now, he started his own franchise. He displayed ownership, and he took it for me. So
what are you talking about when you say ownership?
Extreme ownership. So that's the book he read. That's the book you first read and then recommended it to all of us. It's in our Audible book program. Extreme ownership is a game changer. It changes lives. It's changed my life. I know it's changed your life. It's a book by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and it's about their stories in Ramadi, Iraq, and how, through prioritize and execute and all these different fundamental rules, they maintain ownership, and they basically move forward as a unit and as a team, and they learn from their mistakes. So without taking ownership of a problem, you can't take ownership of the solution. So that's what it's all about.
So you had no concept of all of that. And did it surprise you that Austin so willingly took ownership?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Foreign concept.
I knew, it's a huge damage case. We're going to have to come in with more soil, more salt. All that costs money, but not as much even as the cost of the time it takes to go back and do that. So I knew I was in big trouble, but I didn't know that taking ownership, of the problem, you guys were very forgiving of. Everybody's worked at a place where you break something and you get scolded or you get fired for it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something you guys said, I think, on the first couple of days. Hey, if you take ownership of it, we're not going to fire you.
Mm-hmm.
We will fire you if you break something and you lie about it.
Right.
But
yeah,
that's definitely a big lesson I learned, and it's something I tried to work on since then.
Yeah.
I'm making up for my past lies.
What's crazy though is, from what I remember, your attitude right at the beginning was one of wanting to learn. You talked about real estate right at the beginning. We talked about Bigger Pockets a little bit, and then we recommended all the books to you. But what was unusual about you is you started listening, and not everybody does. We recommend it to everyone, and we know the difference it'll make in their lives, like listening to all the content and everything.
Right.
But you jumped in and you started listening. And I've told this before, but it was crazy. You would send voice notes asking all kinds of questions about life and fitness and what do you do this? And like no boundaries or borders into having some kind of any kind of barrier with whoever you were asking. Like you were just open to learning from anyone, everything. Just did you know that about yourself?
It was just, I think it came down to like necessity. As much as a procrastinator I am, I knew that I was in a tipping point in my life in which, am I going to go to college? Am I not going to go to college? What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I did just enough research to know that going to college is a huge debt decision that kids are taking on.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad that kids aren't informed on like what a big debt decision this is. Can't charge it in bankruptcy. So I knew that if I want to go to college for something, hopefully I was going to be at least passionate about.
Right.
I knew that.
So you didn't know what you were going to go for?
No, I was going to do what everybody does. They close their eyes and they throw a dart at the dartboard.
Yeah,
that's how they choose their major, you know, and then they're stuck in that life because they know they have to pay that back. And it's just something I was so afraid of. So, I wanted to learn anything it took, but I was always set to go to college until the very last moment where I decided that being a part of Augusta and starting my own franchise was for me and for better. So
yeah, well, we could go majorly in the weeds. People could go back and listen to our previous podcasts or our episodes anyway. We might do something like that for you, the two of us. We have some ideas, so we might do another episode and just talk, because there's so much to talk about.
Right.
So but back to you. Then you became the GM at 19. So what do you think it was about yourself that we recognized in you?
That's a good question. I think just the willingness to learn. That's one of the first things I talked about yesterday in my presentation was trial by fire. You realize that, you could have 15 years of HR experience or whatever experience, but you don't know a company's certain systems. Every single company operates differently from another company.
Right.
So experience is worth more than, like just the in-depth doing it and learning is more important than whatever's on paper, that you've done before, because things are just so different. So I think you realize that if we give this kid an arena in which he could just grow into, that's great. And having the, established business, I think by that time you're cash flowing a decent amount. So, like, okay, we have a decent wedge for him to make mistakes.
Yes.
As long as we have somebody that when they make the mistakes are willing to learn from them.
Yes.
I think that sounds like the biggest thing you're looking for in that moment. So that's why you ended up taking a chance.
Yeah. So who is kind of your cushion or your person or your closest mentor then?
Oh, that's obvious. It's Lee.
Yeah.
So I was a field worker. Lee was the estimator. Lee moved up to the general manager position. I moved into his estimator position. So he taught me about the estimator. And then again, being into the general manager, he took on more of the franchise role in the sales calls. He taught me how to be the general manager. He was basically in the room all day, every day with me.
Yeah. So, I think a great leader, they make the next person coming behind them even better.
Absolutely.
So I noticed when I handed things off to Lee, everything that I taught him, he embellished, he made it better, because Mike and I were just paving the way, right? We were just like bulls, just going forward, figuring it out. It was amazing, failing our way to the top, like you had said yesterday. And so the fact that Lee would perfect the systems and then now gave it to you, and like jumping up to now, you were able to take the estimator role and embellish that and make it so much better, which is now having an impact on all of our franchisees. And you can tell us a little bit about that. And then you've made now new hire and training packets. So we had none of that at the beginning. And I'm sure that's how all great companies evolve.
Right.
Is there's great people at the top, and they build the place, and then the other people stand on the shoulders of great men and women who built it for them.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Pressure's a privilege, right? So
I guess so.
Billie Jean King says that, and I know it's very stressful, especially in your position, building up command center basically with your hands. I mean, that was all you. But you're in that general manager role. How you have 15 people that rely on you. They have kids and children and families for a paycheck.
Yes.
So they rely on you. So that you really have to make these decisions decisively. And when it comes to like things like onboarding, the reason I came up with that packet is because we had some documents and things, and they were all over the computer. You had to drag and print them out and stuff like that. And sometimes I'd forget a certain document that I printed, or I wouldn't order them a credit card, or I forgot to order them business cards, whatever it might be. There's so many, different things that what's nice is Command Center takes care of a lot of that. So the direct deposit paycheck and the employee contract they sign online before that. But even then, their first day, it's good to have a packet for them so they know the rules of the game starting, and you could go over it with them. So I just found myself so many times at the end of the night, it's 9:30 p.m. I want to go home, but I know somebody's starting tomorrow morning.
100%.
So I'm printing out these documents, right? Forget to print one, or the printer's out of ink.
Yes.
So that's what I did earlier this year. I realized, I have a lot of time on my hands. Why don't I focus on building something like that? So I could have 15 of these onboarding packets, so that when somebody comes in the door, here's this, let's go over it. I know for a fact that everything's in that packet every single time. So pressure's a privilege, and you just realize that, you have to do something. You have a list of things to do. So why not make it easier on yourself? So I think that's what we all do when we're put in those pressure situations.
And the same for the estimator role. What have you done to really make that better?
A couple things. I don't know if I made it better or really revolutionary.
Your videos and your training were really good that the franchisees were able to use.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's little things like text replacement, which, you could almost use an acronym as you're typing. You type OMW, and then if you have an Apple phone, it automatically populates to on my way,
Yes.
So I did the same thing you have an estimator template. So basically, if I have a mowing service, a weeding service, property cleanup, a mulch, contract, whatever it might be, type that into a template. And then you have these little acronyms that you could remember. That way you could send them 15 different quotes in a matter of 30 seconds.
Fantastic.
By just putting in your supplies and materials.
Yeah, like a copy and paste. And
yeah.
And I remember when I saw you once, you were sitting in the driver's seat of your car, and I couldn't believe it. I walked around the corner, and you have a keyboard sitting in your lap, and I'm like, what is going on? So how did you rig that?
Oh, yeah. So I looked on Amazon. I was like, if I don't always have my laptop on me when I'm in the field, or I don't want my laptop to get stolen out of the car or too hot sitting in the car or something. How do I make it so that I see all my estimates I need to get to on my phone? How can I just type it up and send it on my phone?
Yeah.
Well, it's really tough with the thumbs.
Totally.
I get super short thumbs. So so I was looking on Amazon, is there a Bluetooth keyboard maybe that could connect to our phone? That way typing is so much quicker, at least for me. So that's how I came up with that. But yeah, a little Bluetooth keyboard is about $10 off Amazon. Put batteries in there, you can connect it to your phone, and just makes it so much easier.
That's awesome. Try that, people.
Yeah, once I get back in the car, it's super quick, easy. Get these quotes out in a matter of 2-3 minutes. And that's how you could get, up to 15 to 20 estimates done in a day. So
yeah, so we throw you into the deep end. And what was the size of the team, and what was the revenue when you got started being the GM? Do you remember?
I think it was between 1.4 and 1.6 million in revenue.
That sounds right.
Sounds right. And then 12 to 15 people.
Yeah, depending on who was on at the time.
Yeah, springtime you have more people, and then some people drop off obviously, of course, in the winter, but during the summer as well. Yeah. So I'd say give or take around that range.
Did you have those feelings of major overwhelm and panic, and like that thought process that, oh my God, I'm not ready for this? This is so much.
Yes. trying
like
to
a
think.
sick feeling in your gut.
Yeah,
like,
I'm trying to think. I don't know if there was a certain day where I felt it more than others.
Mhm.
Definitely didn't all come at once, which is nice. You know, you're training with Lee and he shows you one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So you just try to keep everything in front of you. You know, if you start to look at everything from a bigger picture, you're just going to get overwhelmed and you're going to be ineffective.
Yeah.
So that's what it came down to, is one step at a time, prioritize and execute. By then, I already read all those books that I needed to read, and they're books that we reread 15 times, you know. So especially the, books by Jocko Willink have really helped in that.
So while Lee was training you, were there specific books that he said he wanted you to read that would help you?
Yeah, and we had read a couple together. So specifically with sales, as I was moving into the estimator role, Flip the Script by Orrin Clough.
Okay.
Have you read that one?
Yes. And I read it not too long ago because Lee was, I was talking about selling myself to command, and that you have to resell yourself all the time,
right?
Almost like every day you're reselling the vision to them.
Yeah.
And I had heard him speak, and he mentioned this one line, and I said, "Where did you get that?" It's I think you mentioned it yesterday, or somebody did. It's like the end thing. What's
the flash roll?
The flash roll, and he had mentioned it somewhere. And I'm like, I want to know about that. And then he said, flip the script. So I went back and read it again.
Yeah. And he made the example in My Cousin Vinny. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Okay.
Yeah. You remember that lady at the very end of the movie? They're asking her, a certain thing about the car because they're looking for concrete evidence that they had stole the car or whatever. And she said, no, that's impossible. That these tire marks were made by this car. And they were like, yeah, what makes you an expert? And then she went on this like 3 to 4 minute rant on, the certain engine of this car was made in 76, but not 78. So it couldn't have been a 78 vehicle, and these different tires and all the mechanic components. And by the time she was done, she had moved through that so quickly and decisively. There was no checking of her, expertise.
They just
or anything.
believed her.
Yeah, exactly. So flash roll is just getting people to know, like, and trust you via just a quick, thing. It could be 3 or 4 minutes like she did, but in our case for estimates, it's, the last basically 10 seconds of our meeting that really solidifies that. So
got it. Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So
if you're leaving one of your estimates,
so if you're the client, I say, okay, Liz, we just walked around your house. I read back the order to you. So looks like you want your bushes trimmed along the right side of the house, but the back left corner of the house. We're just going to prune the tree off from encroaching on the house and pull the weeds from the garden beds and things. Then my flash roll would be, okay, any more questions or anything you want to go over, Liz?
No, I think that sounds very informative.
Okay. Well, sounds good. I'll get my notes, measurements, a video for the service crew. And then you'll get those separate itemized quotes in your email inbox by the end of the day today.
Yeah.
So that's that little blurb at the end. That's like, I didn't stutter. I didn't, I wasn't like confused or saying, okay, maybe we'll get back to you in the next couple of days, or, okay, sounds good. I'll get some pictures. It was, that's the thing I say every single time, no matter what. That just solidifies that at the
very
end.
Decisive.
Yeah, very decisive.
Yeah. So you were saying yesterday that creates trust, and they have confidence in you.
Yep. Know, like, and trust is that's the biggest component what you're looking for from a client. So yeah, absolutely. That's helped a lot in my sales. But also we read Team of Teams.
Yep.
Stanley McChrystal. You read that one? Oh, of course. One of these days I'm going to find a book you have not read.
Well, I recognize Green Lights you mentioned today. And then yesterday you mentioned several too. The Steve Jobs book. Yeah. That is a great book.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah. So it's good for the listeners to hear what books so they can go grab them too. The reason we read so many of the same is because they're in our Audible.
Right.
And we must have, 500 and something in there.
I think so. I haven't been there in a minute.
And then we both have our personal ones.
We were both branched off. So you have what, thousands in yours?
No, I have about 600.
Okay, yeah. I have about 300 in my personal one.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't put a money value on the education that we've gotten.
Right.
Do you think if you had gone to college, you would be where you are today?
I would have one college degree, but now we both have 15 college degrees by the amount of books we've read.
Yeah.
And the experiences that we've actually lived instead of it just being on a whiteboard.
True. And the fact that we were listening, I've always understood this more so in the last few years. The experience that we have, yes, but the people that we listen to are people that had all the experiences.
Right.
So we were listening to the best.
Right. You go to college and it's somebody that's theoretical and you ask them, hey, what business have you started? Oh, I haven't never started a business. Okay, well, let me listen to Steve Jobs or Mike Andes, and they share their story of, no, here's how it actually works.
Yes.
The numbers say one story, but they don't factor into the emotional toll of it,
Yeah.
which is a big part. And leadership is just something you can't really quantify unless you have led somebody before.
Yeah.
Which that's the last thing I wanted to hear as a kid that's wanting to learn and grow more is,
Yeah.
oh, you just need experience.
Yeah.
I hated that.
That helps nothing.
But it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Well, you got a ton of experience in that amount of time. How long were you a GM?
Just only a year.
A year.
little over
So
a year.
I would say that you probably grew in maturity, probably 5 years in the amount of things that happened.
Yeah.
In that year, and good and bad. But there were two specific things that come to mind. And what was your attitude towards employees? Like when you were to lead them, did you feel like, oh, I'm young, so I can't push too hard. I'm trying with them to do our jobs well and things. Because then there was the first incident where I would love for you to share about that. I'm sure none of those people listen to anything that we listen to.
Yeah.
So, and they would never see this. So coming up to that time, and you can tell us about that and how it changed how you felt towards employees.
Are you talking about the time where we had to restructure, to say it nicely?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And what was your feeling towards employees before that? Were you thinking I can be their buddy and their friend?
Yes. Yep. My thinking going into it was, I'll be kind of the fun sort of camp counselor.
Yes. Okay.
I thought it would be, my thought going into the general manager role was, okay, this lawn care landscaping. Most of the people we hire are not going to be here in a matter of several months.
Right.
There's such a high turnover. It's just the industry standard. So what I want to do is kind of make it a fun, sort of camp counselor type experience, like summer camp.
Yes.
Like they come, they love the work that they're doing. They work with the team. They remember those people forever.
It's a fantasy.
And then they move on.
Yeah.
We're looking for maybe the 1% that's going to become the general manager, but I realize it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
But one of my weaknesses, it's still somewhat of a weakness, is dropping the hammer and enforcing quality. So we don't have a choice because we're Augusta Lawn Care. We're the most professional in whatever county, city, or town.
Right.
So we don't have a choice but to be professional and quality oriented, and for our employees to be able to communicate with the client. So I just would not drop the hammer, and people, they take more and they take more, and then the team culture eventually suffers because those A players look at those C players and say, oh, he's getting away with that type of stuff and still making the P for P. So I could do that too. So you start to lose the A players and then the quality just drops. So that is something I take ownership of. And the fact that the team culture dropped, it just got so toxic that a lot of people we actually just had to get rid of in the wintertime and then just restructure going into that next spring. So
is that like somebody having issues and then they go from person to person to person, because we do mix them all together on different routes and everything. So do you think that's how it started?
Yes. So, you don't really know how bad it is until like you work with somebody like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You work with an A player and you love them, and then you work with the C player and then they're slowing you down. They're always going to the bathroom 11 times or 11 different, going through drive-throughs and stuff, and it harms your P for P since we're efficiency oriented. That's how your pay structure is centered around. So it's just things like that, and not fixing equipment, not taking ownership of mistakes and stuff. Like I would always try to back everybody up. When a client called and they were upset about something, I'd say, oh no, we'd never do that. And they did do that. They just didn't take ownership. And
those are tough ones.
They're tough. Yeah. Cause you don't really know because you're not there.
Yes.
So there's so many instances that come in, you just got to make a decision. And my decision tended toward letting them sort of get away with it. Maybe I'd talk to them, but it just, I never dropped the hammer. So,
yeah. So what was the catalyst that kind of started to change that for you?
Probably going into that next spring. That was a really tough experience. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. And we had to clean house. But going into the next spring, I realized, okay, we're going to have a lot of people on board. So that's kind of a benefit to it, is almost starting again from scratch.
Yeah.
Let's enforce the standard, and then let's keep that standard. But yeah, I'd say even then I didn't fully execute on that. We had a much better team culture, but it wasn't perfect, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. Yeah. So in some companies, or like we used to call it on the pirate ships, that there was a mutiny, and then all the all the pirates came in, and there was a mutiny against I don't know what the main pirate would be. The dude with one eye.
That guy.
That guy. And so what was that like for you to experience something like that where the team had all their little talkings together, one that was maybe a little more articulate and educated or philosophical or whatever could help them. And I think they wrote a letter or something.
Oh, yeah.
Saying how the company should be handled or what should be done. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. And what was your reaction to that? Were you absolutely shocked or?
Yeah, I was at first.
So tell us just the surrounding story.
Yeah. So kind of what happened, there's team culture and, you kind of losing track and handle of the team culture and stuff. And you realize that, but you don't maybe think it's too bad and stuff. And I think it's only right, employees want change and constant change. And I think that's great. And, if there's something you're not going to change, you better be good at explaining it.
Right.
Because, it's only right. Those employees, they want to grow and learn just like everybody else. And you want to embrace that. Yeah. So, basically one morning I was about to do the team meeting. Okay, let's get everybody in here. Let's get started. Okay. Here's a couple things we're going to go over. And then one employee, he came around, he gave like a packet to everybody. I was like, oh boy,
that's odd.
What is going to happen here? I looked at the packet and then I was like, okay, let's, do you want to start with this or what? And he's like, no, let's do the team meeting first. Okay. The team meeting checklist. And then at the end, it was just basically this 1-page document or 2-page that went over like, here's some things we're upset about. It was a lot of like problems. Not really a whole lot of solutions in there. But at the very end, I respect for what they said at the very end is like, hey, we want success. This is why we're bringing this to you. So, here's kind of the deal and stuff. But
so was it the approach or how it was done? Should they have come to you privately instead of involving the whole team?
Yeah, but I didn't really mind that part. Like I don't mind being, put in front of the whole team like that.
Were they calling you out?
Not specifically, but the whole company.
Got it. Okay.
And here's the things we want to see changed and whatever. So Mike, Lee, and I, we got together and we said, okay, here's, after the team meeting where we're all like looking through this, we said, okay, yeah, we're going to talk about this. And then, in a week on the same day, we're going to talk about certain things we could execute on and what we could go.
So what we could do.
Yeah, exactly. And, we do want to come to an understanding and things like that. But
was it also cautionary? Like, okay, there's some poison here that we need to get rid of.
Certainly. Yeah. There's a lot of things that were, pretty overreaching. And again, if people don't explain something, that's the leader's fault.
True.
If something isn't explained to them and they're unsure about something, that's the leader's fault. Right. So we tried to take ownership on what we could. But yeah, even then, I think there was quite an amount of trying to overreach and just trying to get everything for themselves. Not fully, but that was part of the process. So that's something, where you just have to chop that part off while also trying to explain that, hey, no, we do want you to learn and grow here.
Yes,
that's what we're.
So
all
once you changed what you could, and then corrected what you felt was wrong, did people quit? Were they fired?
We changed what was wrong. We didn't want to fire right away because we knew that would look really bad for people remaining. So we kept it as it was, and we tried to move on from there and kind of see how everybody reacted in team culture. At first it was positive, but a couple of weeks go by and then we didn't get a second paper, but it was coming with all these, concerns and here's what we want and here's what it's a sense of entitlement.
Yes.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's I'm entitled to this as an employee or whatever. And it's just like, this is business. This is war. This is surviving in cash. And I'm not looking at, there's a certain example. I don't know if I want to share it, but talking about like all the trucks having EpiPens for if we get stung by a bee, we need to have an EpiPen. And it's just like, I see, you don't want to outright say no, like, like anaphylactic shock, whatever, and all these studies, but like, that is so ridiculous because at the end of the year, there's 2 EpiPens or several $100s or whatever. And then they're only good for a year and then you have to replace them when we have 15 trucks.
Yes. It's
just things like that. It's like, I'm entitled to this. And, again, we changed what we could and I won't get too much into the specifics, but,
so that's when you kind of cleaned house. Yeah. And then started completely over.
It was a couple months after that.
Yeah.
But yes.
But that's a good timeline.
Yeah.
Like slowly, not abrupt, but that was the plan.
Exactly.
Clean it out.
Yep. Clean out kind of. And, we kept some people on board. It wasn't a full clean out, but it came to a tipping point. I was actually gone for that week during Christmas when, it's like, hey, if you want work in the winter, we'll do these snow contracts. It was agreed. Yep. We like to do snow. We like the extra money that comes from snow. We pay them much higher to do that. And then Christmas Day rolls around. Sure enough, it's snowing, and hey, it's Christmas, but you got to get out here and plow because this is what we all wanted, right?
Right. You asked for it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. And, it was just, it was a different reaction from them. And so Lee and his wife were going out and plowing and salting, and
it's crazy.
It's infuriating. It's,
So we weeded out a little bit.
Yeah, we felt less bad about it because, if you're just coming in to refuse to work, then that's pretty easy. We're going to get rid of you. So.
That's exactly what happened to us one year. All the guys, I just don't feel comfortable going out there. Hello.
Yeah.
This is what we do. And Mike and I, it was the first time we had run the Salter. So we had just bought our new Salter and hadn't really figured it out yet. And so that's what we did. We went out all night and did snow and salt till morning and started the day shift.
Good Lord. Oh, geez.
So it's the same thing. Like, do you want to do that? Not really worth it. So get rid of some people that.
Yeah, right.
And then we moved on.
Do you want to do that? Yeah, absolutely. And then it comes to the day where, okay, it's time to execute.
Yeah, too hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that brings me to the next thing, which I think was, I would say that it's unfair in a way. Sometimes we get thrown into stuff and it's like almost unfair because you're young, but life has no respecter of persons. Stuff happens, life happens. And who's ever there has to deal with it, whether they feel prepared or not.
Right.
And we had one young man who did I meet him at the offsite or something?
One young man. It's hard without saying the name. Hey?
Oh, well, I don't know all their names, but no, the one who ended up passing away.
Oh, yes. I'm sure you met him at some point.
I must have met him at like an offsite or something, but couldn't place him entirely. But what I'd found out from you later is that he had some accidents and things and was in pain all the time.
I think we could say his name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Mark.
Mark. Okay.
I talked to his mom quite a bit, and she's actually in Montana, somewhat close to my folks.
Wow, isn't that crazy?
When I go back, I'm going to see how she's doing and stuff.
That's
Sounds like she's doing
cool.
a lot better. But yeah, she's Mara. She's really nice. Mark, who had passed away, he committed suicide. He had talked about when he was in high school, in the very same football game, he got a concussion. Okay, he was woozy, kind of getting off the field. Coach took him out. They only had 11 players, and I think that's how many exactly you need to have a full offense and a full defense.
So nobody could get out.
So the coach threw him back in. Yeah.
No way.
It's just a knock, whatever. Got your bell rung.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies and studies that say it's not just your bell rung.
Exactly.
It's the rest of your life. So, he got thrown back into the game, got a second concussion, came back out, went back in the game, got a third concussion in one game.
Insane.
By that time, it was too late, but his mom had got there, and she had pulled him out, took him to the hospital. They figured out what happened, and, it's pretty undeniable. He had some severe case of CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which he had told a story to me that every single day and night he had this pain in his brain or his head. It was almost like a really bad migraine or really bad headache that no matter what medications they put him on, it didn't even dampen it at all.
Wow.
So every day, no matter what, he was living in this pain. He wakes up in his sleep and he's still in the same amount of pain. It's just never ending. So you wonder exactly why he did it in suicide, but I wouldn't put it past that. That was a big reason. It's just, I can't do this anymore.
So not only is he having pain in his brain, but I'm sure the whole chemistry of his brain was messed up too.
Right. Yeah. And to try to come to work and put on a smiling face, nobody smiled and was more energetic and happy than he was.
Yeah.
But it's what happens outside of work. And
and that quiet suffering.
Yeah.
Those are usually the people that do commit suicide. They don't talk about it.
Right. Yeah. And we, I knew that he had that, and that, some days he would come home early just because he was out of breath or he was tired or he was feeling that headache and throbbing a little bit more. And we were always very, willing to do that with him. we had overhired, so we had so many people in which like I didn't have force.
So you could let him go.
Yeah,
home.
absolutely. So that happened semi-frequently that he would come home and I was, he'd get back to the shop. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I just need to take the night. And, you think you always think you could have done more, and that's true. But, it's hard to quantify. But yeah. So
on that day, did he go home sick?
Yeah, exactly. So he had done about a half route. Hey, I'm not feeling good, but I'll still get the rest of your jobs. No, Mark, just come back, drop off your truck. I want you to feel better. So, you can feel better and be your most effective self.
You have to feel good about that part.
Yes.
Knowing that his coach had done that years ago.
Yep.
And that you were a better player.
Exactly. And, so yeah, he came back. Hey, I'm so sorry. He'd always apologize and be like, hey, that's the first thing. Like, you're not harming the team at all. It's going to be a half day tomorrow, whether you're here or not. Yeah. So you're not making these people work out in the heat. It's not because of you. You're doing a great job. Go home, sleep. He was actually in talks for maybe being a general manager at one point. That's how much of a positive effect and how much he wanted to learn. So he's a really big loss that we had. But yeah, that night, I got a text from his girlfriend saying, hey, you're going to need to take Mark off the schedule completely. I think the rest of this conversation needs to be done in person.
Wow.
So that's where I kind of knew, okay, something
happened.
Something happened. So yeah, that morning came in. Yeah, I won't get into it too much, but there was kind of a rift between, family members and stuff, and they're all coming to me at the same time. I got a call from his mom, and his girlfriend came in at the same time. I was calling his mom, and emotions are everywhere. Yeah. So for what they said and from what they were the information and things they were trying to get from me was, it was a reach, and they said some things that were pretty bad, but you can't blame them because you're not in your right state of mind.
100%. That's so true.
Something that happened is just, it's hard
and
to
you never know how you would be.
Right.
That's the part that I was saying seems unfair in life, is that you were thrown into this. And I remember getting a call and Lee said, yeah, Marcus wants to talk to both of us together. And that was one day we were at Command Center, and we went out in the hall, and we sat on the steps so we could both talk to you. And then you talked to us about it. And I remember thinking, this is just not fair that Marcus has to deal with this. But you were the person, and there was nobody else. Yeah. And it was a perfect example of all the times we say that once I handed everything off to Lee, I didn't interfere anymore. And once he handed it off to you, he let you lead, and he didn't interfere. Right. And so I just told Lee, whatever Marcus says goes. Like, we'll follow his lead, and we'll just be there for whatever he needs. And so you were involved in planning the service and dealing with the family and kind of being a mediator almost between the family. Yeah.
Well, you put that service together. So for you and Mike was in Australia.
Yes.
And even then, it's
we put together an actual service, didn't we? Lee spoke, I sang.
Yeah,
and
Mike came back from Australia for that. It's and we all spoke, and his family was there, and the whole Augusta team was there. Yeah. And so that's just something where I think his mother was living in a different state. I don't know if he had a lot of friends here or what. I know he had moved from Illinois at a certain point, so there wasn't really a whole lot of time or people to get together for it. So just at least having something for him. Yeah. And that's an idea that you had. And then the team meeting that next day and how we were going to talk to the team, a lot of advice I got from Lee. So it was not just me, not whatsoever. Yeah. So.
But it's just important to, first of all, to say that we need to trust people, don't you think? We put them in places to succeed, and we had the confidence in them, and we know that they're gonna execute and do the best they can, no matter how terrified they are or like feel not equipped to handle such a tragedy.
Right. And kind of the idea for, you try to put together the words for what to say, and there really is no right thing to say. But addressing the team, it was like, here's what happened. It did happen. There's what has happened, what is happening, and then what will happen. So that happened for sure, 100%. Here's everything I know. Here's the timeline. I'm going to get everybody a minute. I think it's all good that we're here together. If you want to go in your car, go in your car. And then after giving everybody a minute and to ask their questions to me, to us, you had talked and Lee had talked. We gave them the option. I think that was the right call. And we got a lot of support from the team on that call, which was okay, if you want to go home, go home. Just go. Let me know. Let whoever you're going to be with today know.
Mhm.
We had paired everybody together,
Yes.
so nobody was solo.
Mhm.
So let them know. You could go home. Absolutely. If you have any questions, let me know later. But the people that were, going out to do the work, we said that's an option as well,
Mhm.
because I know a lot of you just would rather kind of work through it. That's a best form of therapy for some people. It's just put my head down, let me dig, let me mow, and let me just work through it. It's really tough to sit in your own thoughts.
Yeah, it was very solemn. A
Yeah.
lot of, people crying. I think I sat out on the porch and just one of the guys who struggled with some of the same things, just sat there with him knowing that, such a warfare going on inside his head.
Right.
And then some of them, they went home right away. And then others ended up halfway through the day. They're like, I just got to get out of here.
Exactly. And exactly halfway through the day, it hits people at
Yes.
different times. You hear it, but you don't really comprehend it. And that was the same thing for me.
Right.
After I had called his mom, after I had talked to his girlfriend, it was just like, okay, here's what we need to do. Let's execute. It wasn't until I called my mom and explained, hey, here's what I'm going through, that I really started to cry and let it all out.
Yeah.
So it hits people at different times. And that's just
sure.
something you have to have the leadership capability to check in on people and
Yeah.
stuff. And that was something I think we handled very, very well after the fact.
Yeah, for sure. So now fast forwarding, then you ended up leaving there and you went to franchisee training just like everyone else.
Mhm.
So the 3F program, how does that work?
Franchise fee forgiveness. So it's usually what, $20,000 or 30?
For the growth model, it's 20,000, and then they pay $1,200 a month.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's 20, but it's eventually going to go higher because.
And so the 3F program, they don't pay the upfront 20, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. But 3F program, that fee gets waived. So again, I just need to buy my trucks, my equipment. And
so
things.
did they throw you an amount like to get started all in with your trucks, your marketing, everything you need? You're going to need to save 60,000. Like, kind of what do you need to get started?
Sorta, yeah. I mean, people do like introductory coaching calls with like Lee. Fortunately, I had him in the office with me, so I could spitball ideas with him. And but mostly I got it from the there's a landscape business course and the online MBA for entrepreneurs, in which Mike talks about. We're at the airport right now, so it's a good analogy. The takeoff capital.
Yes.
So before you're even in the air, you have to burn all this energy in the form of money to even get your momentum to go up and to be profitable. So it's that takeoff capital of buying my trucks, buying my equipment, having all this stuff. People don't realize how much that costs. And so even right now, I'm in a very low financial situation. So I need to start getting that momentum and putting money on the board. So that's what I'm doing. But you
saved money during that whole time you were planning to have your franchise.
Absolutely. P4P, profit sharing, all that is very... We're a professional service, and we give our employees a professional wage all the way up the ladder. So.
Yeah. And then as a GM, you get paid hourly at the shop, hourly, and then you would get a portion of profit sharing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so you were able to take, the more successful you made the business, the more of profit sharing you got.
Right.
So it made it worth it to you, really. Kick butt, grow the team, you were like me. There's probably not anybody else that had the situation that you and I did, not having a family member at home or like a significant other that we had to take care of or be there for. We just worked mass amount of hours.
Right.
And you did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like it was just like day and night you're working to try to make this thing grow. And it was worth it in the end.
Right.
The payout and the profit sharing was definitely worth all your effort.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what Mike rewards with his general managers is like, how much year-over-year growth did you have this year? I'm going to pay you a portion of that because you deserve it. It's just so smart.
Yeah,
so all of his general managers, and we have some franchisees now that are multi-unit owners, and they're asking Mike questions. Hey, I'm going to have a general manager. How can I make sure they stay and they're effective?
Yes.
And they're great. It's like, as you grow, pay them a portion of whatever that growth is. So we talk about ownership. That's as ownership as you could get without literally owning the business,
Yeah,
so
it's pretty awesome.
It is.
Yeah. So now you're a business owner, and now this is your first spring, and this is June, end of June. So you've experienced your first spring rush alone. Is it terribly lonely first of all, I remember, you can share with the listeners because I know this, but why would you leave this flourishing company where you had a position of leadership to go back and like grind at nothingness?
Right. So I was never money motivated. I've never really been money motivated. I just value time a lot.
Yeah.
So I realized that, really, if I want to grow something, I want to grow it for myself. And so that I could appoint my own general manager and just have that location running, invest in the real estate, the other things I want to do, so that I have more time to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's between that and
not our airline.
not our airline, making sure. But I kind of told Mike this. It's I really, to understand Augusta completely, I have to go back and start from scratch. So I know what it's like to run a huge business and a big corporation and make sure it's really good. Now I need to go back and build it up from the ground, because I wasn't there with you guys for the early days in those struggles. So it was more so that I wanted to embrace the struggle and try to grow from there.
So now you're experiencing that, and the low times, like you were saying, not a lot in the bank account. Somebody just quit before you even came to Memphis here to speak. Like we both came here to speak to the franchisees. And so then, he's got stuff on the schedule, somebody quits. So you're dealing with a lot right now. And I remember those times when we didn't know how we'd even make payroll, that we were trying to have the money to pay for everything. So now you're feeling that.
Yeah.
Experiencing.
And there's, as far as sort of those experiences, I'm really not too stressed out about it, especially like the financial.
Yeah.
Just because I know the steps to take to get through it. I know it's part of the cost of just the startup capital, get momentum, and I'm starting to feel that momentum. Like next month, I don't have to buy any trucks. I already have it.
Right.
So that's what's nice. I get to just sort of take off and go. But I knew just springtime and kind of how it works on a massive scale. So I knew it was going to be, you're putting out fires and everything's going to go wrong at the same time. It's just part of what happens.
Yeah. So you feel pretty level.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what I try to talk about at the presentation yesterday is you need to get to a point where, as things happen and employees quit or they get fired, or you have to move people off the schedule and just profusely apologize to your clients all at the same time. You're going to have to do that so much, but get to a point where mentally that almost doesn't even register on your radar.
Yeah, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Detach
And there's nobody better at that than you and Mike. And it's, I think, because of that long-term vision, which I talked about, because, you're hiring and firing, you realize you have to do that. A lot of people have to take the weekend, as in like an employer.
So emotional.
Yeah, they have to take a weekend to recover, and you're just you get 7 more things done after that in the same day. It's just, you guys are laser focused. You've been through that so many times that you've built that mental muscle, so that you could almost do that without, a blip on the radar, which is.
And all of that is reps,
Absolutely. Yeah. Just like you build your body, it's mental reps.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very beneficial to be on the other side of that, and to see you guys operate every day. It's very motivational too.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if we should call it here and then do another one, and we could find out what you spoke about at Memphis. Yeah. And just how all the Memphis thing came to be, and just both of our experience there.
And I could grill you on questions about your book. I'm going to get some insider info.
Yes, there you go. All right. Well, we're going to close out, and then we'll touch base with all of you later. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you so much.
Screen. I'm going to have to edit this.
It's okay.
End recording. No, I mean edit it because